Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining this morning, our Friday morning Shrimad Bhagavatam class and attentive japa. We're continuing from where we left off last time. Maharaj Parikshit, who has been cursed by the Brahmin boy to die within 7 days, and now Maharaj Parikshit is a very elevated soul, and he wants to know what he should be doing in the next 7 days so he can go back to Godhead. So he's renounced everything. He's left his kingdom, and then he's going on to the um, on the shore of Yamuna river. Sometimes it's Ganga, sometimes it's Yamuna. But Prabhupada says that it's the Yamuna river because that was the nearest to Hastinapur. So he's gone there. So let's do a quick prayer first of all. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Mukham karoti vachalam pangum namyate girim yat kirpa tamam vande Shri Guru Deen Karanam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tassat Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Jaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nasta Presha Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhakti Bhakti Nistiki Jai. So many sages had gathered to witness Maharaj Parikshit's last few remaining days and also to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from the mouth of Shukadev Goswami. Maharaj Parikshit so inquires. So the sages knew that Srimad Bhagavatam will be spoken. So they had all thousands and thousands, they had all gathered to meet Maharaj Parikshit first of all, and also most importantly hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So Maharaj Parikshit asked the sages, O trustworthy Brahmins, I now ask you about my immediate duty. Please, after proper deliberation, tell me of the unalloyed duty of everyone in all circumstances, and specifically of those who are just about to die. So in this verse, the king has placed two questions before the learned sages. He trusted the sages' opinions. He wanted to get a majority opinion. What do they all, although they're all right in their own way, but what do the majority think I should do? So the first question is, what is the duty of everyone in all circumstances? And the second question is, what is the specific duty of one who is to die very shortly? So out of the two questions, Sri Prabhupada mentioned that the question relating to the dying man is most important because after all, everyone is a dying man, either very shortly or after 100 years. And as His Grace Yadavendra Prabhu was mentioning the other day, so it's not about whether we're going to die, when we're going to die. We're all going to die. Our ancestors have died, we will die, and then people after us will also die. This is the Mrityu Lok, so we'll all die. So that's not the issue. The issue is how can we elevate the soul at the time of death, and what can we do beforehand so it's the soul is elevated. So duration of life is immaterial, but the duty of a dying man is very important. So as Maharaj Parikshit was asking this question to the sages, at that moment there appeared the powerful son of Vyasadeva, who traveled over the earth disinterested and satisfied with himself. He did not manifest any symptoms of belonging to any social order or status of life. He was surrounded with women and children, and he dressed as if others had neglected him. So women and children were following him, they thinking he was a madman, and they're probably calling him things as well. But so it appears that upon the inquiry of Maharaj Parikshit, the great sages were not unanimous in their decision as to what was to be done. So all the sages were giving their own opinions of what is the duty of a man in every circumstance and what is the duty of a man who's about to die. They all have their own opinions. The great sages were not unanimous in the decision as to what was to be done. For spiritual salvation, there were many prescriptions according to the different modes or different persons. But the ultimate aim of life is to attain the highest perfectional stage of devotional service to the Lord. So as doctors differ, so also sages differ in their different prescriptions. While such things were going on, the great and powerful son of Vyasa appeared on the scene. So he was sent by Krishna. It's Krishna arrangement to send him because the sages weren't able to agree on anything anyway. So the sage Sri Shukadeva Goswami sat perfectly pacified, intelligent, and ready to answer any question without hesitation. The great devotee Maharaj Parikshit approached him, offered his respects by bowing before him, and politely inquired with sweet words and folded hands. So now Sukadeva Goswami has arrived, and after asking the sages, now Maharaj is going to ask Sukadeva Goswami. He's only 16 years old. He's just a child, but he has a great reputation and is very elevated. So Maharaj Parikshit also trusts what he has to say as well. Maharaj Parikshit placed these two questions before Shukadeva Goswami also on his arrival. And practically the whole of the Srimad Bhagavatam, beginning from the second canto up to the 12th canto, deals with these two questions that Maharaj Parikshit asked. The conclusion arrived at thereof is that devotional service of the Lord Shri Krishna, as it is confirmed by the Lord himself in the last phases of Bhagavad-Gita, is the last word in relation to everyone's permanent duty in life. So devotional service to the Lord is our permanent duty. Maharaj Parikshit was already aware of this fact, but he wanted the great sages assembled there to unanimously give their verdict on his conviction so that he might be able to go on with his confirmed duty without controversy. For transcendental realization or self-realization, many processes are recommended by various classes of philosophers. Some of them are first-class methods, some of them are second or third-class methods. So the first-class method demands that one give up all other methods and surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord, and thus be saved from all sins and their reactions. So as Sri Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita, Sarva Dharman Partajya. So give up everything else, all other notions and ideas, just surrender unto him. That was the last word in Bhagavad-Gita. Excuse me. Maharaj Parikshit was a devotee of Lord Krishna from his childhood. So he had natural affection for Krishna. Shukadeva Goswami could understand his devotion. Therefore, he welcomed the questions about the king's duty because the king hinted that worship of Lord Krishna is the ultimate function of every living entity. So Shukadeva Goswami welcomed the suggestion and said, because you have raised questions about Krishna, your question is most glorious. And then Shukadeva Goswami glorifies Maharaj for asking these wonderful questions. My dear king, your question is glorious because it's very beneficial to all kinds of people. The answer to this question is the prime subject matter for hearing, and it is approved by all transcendentalists. The activities of Krishna are not different from Krishna himself. So as long as one is engaged in hearing such transcendental activities of Krishna, he remains aloof from the conditioned life of material existence. The topics of Lord Krishna are so auspicious that they purify the speaker, the hearer, and the inquirer. They are compared to the Ganges water, which flows from the toes of Lord Krishna. Where the Ganges water goes, they purify the land and the person who bathes in them. Similarly, Krishna Katha, or the topics of Krishna, are so pure that wherever they are spoken, the place, the hearer, and the inquirer, the speaker, and all concerned become purified. And in the age of Kali, it's very important for us to remain purified and stop the influence of Kali onto us. Those persons who are materially engrossed, being blind to the knowledge of ultimate truth, have many subject matters for hearing in human society, or emperor. Persons devoid of Atam Tattva don't inquire into the problems of life, being too attached to the fallible soldiers like the body, the children, and wife. Although sufficiently experienced, they still don't see the inevitable destruction. So that should be our main inquiry, and that's what should be relying on, that knowledge. This material world is called the world of death. Everyone, living being, beginning from Brahma, whose duration of life is some thousands of millions of years, down to the germs who live only for a few seconds only, is struggling for existence. Therefore, this life is a sort of fight with material nature, which imposes death upon all. In all human form of life, a living being is competent enough to come to an understanding of this great struggle for existence. But instead of being too attached to family members, society, country, etc., he wants to win over the invincible material nature by the aid of bodily strength, children, wife, relatives. Although he is sufficiently experienced in the matter of by dint of past experience and previous examples of his deceased predecessors, he doesn't see that the so-called fighting soldiers, like the children, relatives, society members, countrymen, are all fallible in the great struggle. So we have so much confidence in our family, in our relatives, and we become, fearless because we have their backing. But everybody is fallible. Should realize that only the Lord is infallible, and we should rely on Him. Our strength and our fearlessness should come through Krishna, not through our relatives and children. One should examine the fact that his father or his father's father had already died, and that he himself is therefore also sure to die. And similarly, his children, who are the would-be fathers of their children, will also die in due course. No one will survive in this struggle with material nature. This material world exists only as a dream due to our attachment to it. Otherwise, the living soul is always different from the material nature. The great ocean of material nature is tossing the waves of time, and the so-called living conditions are something like foaming bubbles which appear before us as bodily self, wife, children, society, countrymen, etc. Due to lack of knowledge of self, we become victimized by the force of ignorance and thus spoil the valuable energy of human life in a vain search after permanent living conditions, which are impossible in this material world. Srila Prabhupada also gives example of straws, how with the waves, sometimes straws in the water, they all come together, and then with another wave, they all drift apart. And we tend to be like that with friends and family. We all come together, and then time, the time we all split, we all get apart as well for one reason or another. And especially death itself divides the soul. And then again, we all come together with the other souls and then divide it. So we like an ocean, straws coming together, falling apart. O descendant of King Bharat, one who desires to be free from all miseries must hear about, glorify, and also remember the personality of Godhead, who is the super soul, the controller, and the savior from all miseries. Being engaged in all these materialistic activities, the living soul entangles himself in the cycle of the low fruitive actions. This entails the chain of birth and death in the 8.4 million species of life, the aquatics, the vegetables, the reptiles, the birds, the beasts, the uncivilized man, and then again the human form, which is a chance for getting out of the cycle of fruitive action. Therefore, if one desires freedom from this vicious circle, then one must cease to act as a karmi or enjoyer of the results of one's work, good or bad. One should not do anything, either good or bad, on his own accord, on his own account, but must execute everything on behalf of the Supreme Lord. So all our uh, tasks should be for the Lord, not for ourselves. We should put Krishna in the center, the ultimate proprietor of everything that be. This process of doing work is recommended in Bhagavad-Gita as Yat Karoshi Yadasnasi in Bhagavad-Gita 9.27. Also, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. So Lord Krishna recommends that all our processes in life are go through Krishna, and then we will not suffer their fruitive action. Here, instructions given for working on the Lord's account. Therefore, one should first of all hear about the Lord. When one has perfectly and scrutinizingly heard, one must glorify the acts and deeds, and thus it will become possible to remember constantly the transcendental nature of the Lord. Hearing about and glorifying the Lord are identical with the transcendental nature of the Lord, and by so doing, one will be always in association of the Lord. This brings freedom from all sorts of fear. The Lord is the super soul, the Paramatma present in the hearts of all living beings, and thus by the above hearing and glorifying process, the Lord invites association over all his creation. This process of hearing about and glorifying the Lord is applicable for everyone, whoever he may be, and it will lead one to the ultimate success in everything in which one may be engaged by providence. There are many classes of human beings, the fruitive workers, the empiric philosophers, the mystic yogis, and ultimately the unalloyed devotees. For all of them, one and the same process is applicable for achieving the desired success. Everyone wants to be free from all kinds of fear, and everyone wants the fullest extent of happiness in life. The perfect process for achieving this here and now is recommended in Srimad Bhagavatam, which is uttered by such a great authority as Srila Shukadeva Goswami. By hearing about and glorifying the Lord, all a person's activity become molded into spiritual activities, and thus all conceptions of material miseries become completely vanquished. So this is recommended by Srila Prabhupada and Shukadeva Goswami. Now that very Srimad Bhagavatam I shall recite before you because you are the most sincere devotee of Lord Krishna. One who gives full attention and respect to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam achieves unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord, the giver of salvation. So it's mentioned that one who gives full attention and respect to hearing. So that's also very important that we hear, just like we chant attentively, we should be hearing also attentively and with respect and faith in the Srimad Bhagavatam. If it's not, that's not the case, then we don't get the full potency. Srimad Bhagavatam is a recognized Vedic wisdom, and the system of receiving Vedic knowledge is called Avroha Pantha, or the process of receiving transcendental knowledge through bona fide disciplic succession. For advancement of material knowledge, there is a need for personal ability and researching aptitude. But in the case of spiritual knowledge, all progress depends more or less on the mercy of the spiritual master. So for material knowledge, we need ability and the researching aptitude. We should be able to find the right information. But in the case of spiritual knowledge, progress depends on the mercy of the spiritual master, And for that, to get the mercy of the spiritual master, we have to serve him and please him. The spiritual master must be satisfied with the disciple. Only then is knowledge automatically manifested for the student or spiritual knowledge. The process should not, however, be misunderstood to be something like magical feats, whereby the spiritual master acts like a magician and injects spiritual knowledge into his disciple, as if surcharging with an electrical current. The bona fide spiritual master reasonably explains everything to the disciple on the authorities of Vedic wisdom. The disciple can receive such teachings not exactly intellectually, but by submissive inquiries and a service attitude. So you don't have to be the most clever person, most intelligent person to receive spiritual knowledge. So anybody can receive this. The idea is that the both spiritual master and the disciple must be bona fide. And we see even children, we got Dhruv Maharaj, we got Prahlad Maharaj, even children have received this spiritual knowledge And they are, even Dhruv Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj, they're both worthy of being spiritual masters themselves. So there's no limit of age or who the person is. So you can receive it at any age, and you can also pass it on from any age as a guru. What is so then? Shukdev Goswami goes on to say, what is the value of a prolonged life which is wasted, inexperienced by years in this world? Better a moment of full consciousness, because that gives one a start in searching after his supreme interest. So, Shukdev Goswami instructed Maharaj Parikshit about the importance of the chanting of the holy name of the Lord by every progressive gentleman. In order to encourage the king, who had only 7 remaining days alive, Srila Shukdev Goswami asserted that there is no use in living hundreds of years without any knowledge of the problems of life. Better to live for a moment with full consciousness of the supreme interest to be fulfilled. The supreme interest of life is eternal, with full knowledge and bliss. Those who are bewildered by the external features of the material world and are engaged in the animal propensities of the eat, drink, and be merry type of life are simply wasting their lives by the unseen passing of valuable years. We should know in perfect consciousness that human life is bestowed upon the conditioned soul to achieve spiritual success, and the easiest possible procedure to attain this end is to chant the holy name of the Lord. So you can chant the holy name of the Lord in your last 7 days, or you can chant the holy name of the Lord for hundreds of years. But unless you do that, then life has been wasted. This is what Shukdev Goswami is saying, that life is only worth something if you have used it properly. Otherwise, whether you live for thousands of years or you live the life of Lord Brahma, if you haven't used it to get the spiritual elevation, spiritual values, then you have wasted your life. So thank you so much, and would love to have your input on this. Maybe first of all, thank you all so much for joining this morning, Rukmani Mataji, and Nitai Kirtan Prabhu, Partha Prabhu, Parveen Mataji, Prem Prakash Prabhu, Sarveshi Mataji, and Venkat Prabhu. Thank you for your association, and would love to hear from you. Venkat Prabhu, now you normally have to go, so would you like to say something, Prabhuji? Hare Krishna. Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Sorry. I always take time to unmute myself. Nothing much, Prabhuji. Thanks for your association.
Okay.
And yeah,
That's
I think
fine.
we need to learn. Sorry, Prabhuji.
I said thank you for hearing.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, we have Partha Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for nice class. I was just reading Canto 1, Chapter 2, Bhagavatam yesterday.
Yeah.
And I just want to read few lines from that particular text, Prabhu. Is it okay?
Yeah, sure, Prabhu.
Oh. Yeah. There is no point in arguing that materialistic man can be happy. No materialistic creature, be the great Brahma or insignificant ant, can be happy. Everyone tries to make a permanent plan for happiness, but everyone is baffled by the loss of material nature. Therefore, materialistic world is called darkest region of God's creation. Yet the unhappy materialist can get out of it simply by desiring to get out. That's all, Prabhu. Like when you mentioned about this world in the text, I just want to reflect on these points. That's all, Prabhu.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Prabhu. And actually, also says there is that Srila Shukadev Goswami is an authorized spiritual master, and thus he was inspired by the Lord to appear before Maharaj Parikshit and instruct him in the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam. So one can achieve the ultimate success of going back to Godhead if he is favored by the Lord sending his true representative. So as you mentioned that if you desire, If your desire is to go back home, if your desire is to elevate your soul, then Lord Krishna, he arranges for you that, like we have our spiritual masters, we all desired that we want this, and the spiritual master manifests there to help us, as he did for Maharaj Parikshit. So thank you for that, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay. Rukmini Mataji?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Very nice class for understanding today's people. And we are now lucky that every Friday we are listening the Amrut language. So we are very thankful to you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. And I'm thankful to you all for joining me and giving your input in this, because I learn. I can just read, but when we discuss, we learn a lot better of what the topic is all about. Okay, Parveen Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, thank you so much. Pranam to everyone. Yes, so what I've gathered is the real purpose of life is self-realization by devotional service. So we have to spend every breath really remembering the Lord, because we don't know, like Lord really arranged very well for Parikshit Maharaj, so he knew he's going to leave his body in 7 days, so he had the chance, but we don't know when our time will be up. So we have to prepare ourselves, and we have to lead our life like with Krishna in the middle. So everything we have to dedicate to him, have full faith, pure love for him, and that is the pure happiness. So I am a bit stressed today because I was looking after my daughter's rabbit, but we knew it's not good for him to keep indoors. He needed to be out. So I took him back 3 days back, and he stopped eating since I took him back. So I have to rush today. We have to take him to the vets, but that's another example of showing that pure happiness, because I am happy when I'm dedicating my life in devotional service, but children, they're still trying to find happiness in these little things with the pets and everything. So I can't really, make them change their mind. So all I can pray to Krishna is that she doesn't decide to get another rabbit or whatever, so they can spend their time, loving Krishna, where there is no loss. Like, one of the shlokas, there's no loss or diminution, whatever we do, we carry on, but everything else is lost here. Yeah, thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Absolutely.
Thank you.
We are,
Yeah.
that everyone is a dying man. So
Yeah.
remember that. And a lot of people don't understand that we have to go as well. They just carry on with their lives
Yeah, because like people emphasize on art of living, but I say art of dying is most important, really, because we are dying every day. People celebrate their birthdays, but yeah, it is reducing your life, really. So we should be thinking, yes, my time is coming closer to go as well. Yeah, so we are very fortunate, Prabhuji, for your association and your time. Thank you so much, and Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, for giving us this beautiful Krishna consciousness.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Prem Prakash Prabhu?
Sorry, Prabhuji, 1 minute. I might have to drop out because I'm planning to leave soon. So, but I will try to listen to whatever time. But yeah, please forgive me in case I have to drop out. Yeah.
No problem, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Prem Prakash Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanvat Pranam. Hare Bol, Dhanvat Pranam. So, what struck for me basically is the example of straws, which actually comes across the ocean, and then they again separate. Right, when actually the waves comes. It's also given example of a train where in a modern terms, where people actually board the train, meet the passengers, and they exchange their thoughts and affection with each other. And when the another station comes, the passengers need to actually get down.
Mm.
And we normally don't keep a lot of attraction or like attachment to other passengers. Similarly, over here, the straws actually meet and then they separate. So that is what actually struck us basically, the family members, giving an example of family members, that the different jivas and souls, due to their karmas and attraction and the laws of nature, they actually conceive in a family and get together for a purpose. It could be right purpose, it could be wrong purpose, but as long as they are dedicated to Krishna and detached. So that's a crux of the understanding. It is there that the attachment is still with Krishna and not with the people around who are there. Although what we are doing in due course is learning how to associate in different relation, because uh, when we go and associate with Krishna and the devotees, that's what we have learned from here. So it's not completely wrong to actually have emotional bondage or the feeling how we respond and react to them and how we support them. That is a learning we should acquire, but at the same time there should be detachment, because that's not a real relationship. That's just like a sandbox where you actually do kind of practice, but actual house is somewhere else. So that's a learning, and the over the period of time, as we should associate with different jivas, like different straws, then we know how to associate. And when we go back, we get separated, keep on getting separated. But once we go back, that is the actual place where we are placed in a house. The straws are placed in a house, and that's how we gel with the other devotees. So that's a learning we should be acquiring. And then when we go back, that's a real relationship.
Good. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Right.
Thank you. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We have to, Prabhupada mentioned that we have to understand these relationships are temporary. We start thinking that we become so fearless that I have, you see people, they have very strong brothers, he does this, does that, and they form like a macho gang, thinking nobody can touch us now. We start relying on fallible people, which is, well, it's wrong in anyway, if they have that mentality. But at the same time, we can't rely on fallible people. We, like you say, we have, they are family, and the soul wants to love, he wants association. So no, nothing wrong with that. But what we should be thinking that we should take responsibility for the family and see how we can help them to elevate. If we have the opportunity, then we should try and make the opportunity for them as well, so they can also elevate. So that should be our attitude, trying to find our elevation and trying to elevate our loved ones as well. Uh,
That's
Instead of just completely relying on them materially and only thinking materially and basing everything on material life. I think that's the idea behind this.
that's true, Prabhuji. But just one point, which actually I just realized, and probably I said, but not actually emphasized enough, is we have, just suppose if we have a child and we are like, that happens to me as well. I'm not actually doing that much. If we have a child and we just pretend to be that much detached and not actually cater to the needs of a child, basically, what happens is that two things. First thing is that Krishna is not happy because Krishna wants you to take care of a child. The second thing happens is that we need to understand that when we go back to, when eventually by Krishna's mercy and Guru's mercy, if one goes back to the spiritual world, there this relationship will exist. If we have not learned enough from here, or from all temporary relationship, to actually how to demonstrate and how to show love and affection in that relationship, so we might not be able to do that well. So we need to start learning, but that learning is for the eternal relationship and not for the temporary relationship. So we need to have emotion and everything in this world as well, that's part of it. Look, when Ramji came and Sitaji, he got separated with Sitaji, he showed emotion as well. So there are different points where Lord himself showed emotion. So that's something which we keep on learning, but that learning, that knowledge has to be applied somewhere else, that we need to understand. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Yes, of course. I mean, with Lord Ram actually, he showed. We could look at it like that. That even God was showing emotion, but he was also showing that we have to be careful, because even he was showing that it can be weakness as well in our part, to be too emotional or too attached as well. I think that's Lord Ram was showing that as well. That he sort of, he went a little bit out of control. They weren't eating anything. They're just running around. The nature of the human being, how we can get obsessed as well. So we have to see everything as a duty. We have to be attached, but as a duty to the Lord. Then this is why we're putting Krishna in the center. We're saying that Krishna has given us this duty to love our family, to look after our family, to help our family. Is Krishna has given that. So if we go through Krishna again, so that helps. Start just thinking, is my family, my wife, my children. Say this Krishna has given me this task to look after them, to help them, and you do it through Krishna rather than just going direct. That's what I understand.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And also, it's just suppose we have a son, right? And just suppose in an eternal relationship, we have a son as a Krishna. In that way, our reaction to Krishna is something what we need to learn. We don't know at the moment how we are going to show love and affection to Krishna, right? So where we are going to learn that thing?
Yeah, I mean, that won't necessarily be our rasa. We won't, there are other rasas as well. We won't necessarily be a son in the spiritual world. It depends if that's what you, that's your identity in the spiritual world. Then Krishna could be, you could have the parental rasa, but not everybody will have that.
Yeah, absolutely. There are 5 kind of freshers, but they will be training as well. But this is just one step.
So what do you recommend, Prabhu? So what should we do?
Yeah, so basically we should see in our relationship, I mean, whatever relationship, we might not be in that rasa as well, but we should see in our relationship, like if Krishna is there, how should we be treating them? Relatives, basically. It's been said that one should not differentiate between Krishna and the devotees, right? So basically, when we are treating our devotees, our family members, what we should see Krishna in them as a part of our service, obviously as a part of service and responsibility Krishna has given them. But it's also learning to see that Krishna is in there. I mean, and Krishna is trying to teach us something. So instead of like taking up anger when we actually get frustrated with our family members and then we take out anger, we don't realize we can actually going forward. I mean, we can't stop it, but we can contemplate afterwards that, look, if Krishna was there, how would I have treated the person? So that learning comes, isn't it? Yeah. So it's something which is there. We might not be able to control immediately, but if we contemplate what we did, then probably Krishna would have taught something with that relationship and in that situation. So that's what something is. It's probably is a sandbox in a computer. There's a sandbox application is that you do it and then it falls, but it doesn't actually fall. Then you can reconstruct it. It doesn't get saved basically. In a sand, there's a castle you build and it falls, then you can again build the castle. So you're not attached with that particular sand castle, but there is something eternal. So from that we learn something. So that understanding I was trying to put forward that understanding. I hope I'm able to do what I'm trying to say. But
no, perfectly, Ravi. I mean, you mentioned that again. You think about Krishna. That Krishna is my son. How would I treat? That's perfect. This is what we're saying, that Krishna should be there somewhere in the equation, and as long as Krishna's there, then and we love Krishna, then we can do the right thing by him. That's perfect. Thank you so much, Ravi.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Sureshi Mataji, Hare Krishna, Babu. Mataji, could you unmute?
Sorry.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yeah. In this material world, any relationship or any love you have for families, relatives is all temporary. It got its beginning and then it got its end. And it's not permanent. But relationship with Krishna is permanent and eternal because we are part and parcel of Krishna. And he says in Bhagavad-Gita, Mame Vansho Jiloke Jibhu Sanatna. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental part. And Krishna is very close to us as a super soul in our heart. And he never leaves us. He's here with us in happiness, in distress, and even birth, after we leave this body and have another body, he still accompanies us. And it is our permanent duty or our dharma is to serve Krishna, love him, to do devotional service, and also do a serve spiritual master and listen to his instruction, compassionate to the other living entities, and we should surrender to Krishna and become his devotee like Krishna instructs in Bhagavad-Gita, Manmana Bhavakto. Be my devotee and pay obeisance to me. And Savranam Kirtanam Vishnu Samranam. Here it says Savranam Kirtanam Vishnu and Kirtan only to Vishnu, not to other demigods, anything, just Krishna. Just like Mahamantra, we chant Hare Krishna. Usually people worship the demigods and their results are temporary. Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita, Antvantu phalam tesham tad bhavat medasam. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods and their fruits are temporary. So we should do permanent service to Krishna. Our goal of life is to go back to Godhead, and this is our permanent destination. So we should do Sarvanam Kirtanam Vishnu Samranam. There is lot of glorification of Lord Krishna in Bhagavatam. And then it's a very nice slok in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says how to go back to Godhead. He's telling everything, he's giving all the instruction how to go back to him. But we are so involved in this Maya that we can't follow his instruction. He says, Itu sarvani karmani maisanasya matpra anen yoganma dhyanta upaste tesham ham sadhata itu sansar sagrat bhamami nachirata partha maya beshishyam. But those who worship me, giving me up all their activities unto me, and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service, and always meditating upon me, having fixed their mind upon me, ocean of Partha, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. He says how to get out of this world, and that is devotional service, Savanam Kirtanam Vishnu. And that's what Maharaj Parikshit did. And so he asked question to Sukadeva Goswami, what should patient should do when he's dying, about to die? And the Sukadeva Goswami was so pleased with Raja Parikshit that he said he didn't ask for himself that what shall I do? I mean, a lot of people say, what can I do? That's some for themselves. But he's asking for all the people, what people should do. And then he spoke what people should do, mostly Krishna, Vishnu, and mostly it's all in glorification of Krishna. It comes in Srimad Bhagavatam. If you read Bhagavatam, if you have the glories of the devotees and the Krishna and how to do devotees. There's some nice prayers, how to pray to Krishna, all these things. So this is permanent duty of our living entity to love Krishna, do devotional service, and go back to Godhead. That's what Krishna wants. He wants. He says, "This place is dukkhala ashashvatam." That means it's temporary, full of misery. This is not place for the human being. Our place is back to Godhead, to Krishna. So that what Raja Parikshit he done in 7 days, and he went back to Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Jai. Thank you so much, Mataji. Nicely explained. You're absolutely right. Maharaj Parikshit, he also demonstrates that whatever happens, any reverses in life, we should see them as mercy of Krishna, that whatever has happened for a good reason. And because he was a devotee of Krishna, he realized that even this curse to die within 7 days is a boon from Krishna to him. And so he wanted to use this curse as a stepping stone to help mankind. Instead of just, feeling sad for himself, he thought he would use these 7 days to help mankind and find solutions for them before he leaves. And also, as we find solutions for mankind, we are also part of that. So we find solutions for ourselves, and he found a solution to go back home by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So thank you so much, Mataji, for telling us, summarizing that very nicely. Thank you so much. Okay, Natagi, do you want to add anything?
Time is short, so that's fine. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Bobby. Okay, Swaji Mataji, please, can we have the first round, please? Do a couple of rounds. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Shall I start, Prabhu?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Nami.